So the pandemic has been, the hashtag word is unprecedented. Unprecedented, no doubt challenging. And this is challenging both as a physician, both as an administrator, both as a team leader, and of course on an individual basis. So it has been challenging. We have risen to the occasion and done our best here at National Chest Hospital. We are quite small compared to our larger institutional colleagues. When you look at Kingston Public Hospital, a Spanish Town hospital, we are no doubt much smaller. But being small has its advantages in that we tend to know each other even better. And so when the time really came that we needed to pull together as a team, we did so. And demands were made of members of the team that we would never have considered doing before. And it truly has been a team approach. We can't say it is the doctors, we can't say it is the nurses, we can't say it is ancillary staff, we can't say it was just paramedical staff, because each unit of this team, whether it was administrative, whether it was medical, paramedical, ancillary, security officers, all had to come together.
Some of the challenges for us were the high volume of patients, and we had to operate with a safe number of staff for almost a year. For example, we had to retrofit some of our outpatients clinic to house patients that we admit. And so we increased our bed number by 40, but usually it would be 100 beds. And we also had to reschedule or reduce some of our services to facilitate admission. And so we had 3 wards managing patients being admitted for COVID-19. So in essence, 80% of our patients were COVID-19.
None of us, when we signed up to be healthcare workers, signed up to work in a pandemic. And at the end of the day, it's patient care you're doing. So the challenges are there. You have to do your best, put your best out there to help these patients, because sometimes, you are that only like beacon of hope or that stabilizing factor for a patient. Because sometimes they come in, they're extremely fearful because they're like, I don't know how I get COVID, I don't know when I got exposed, and then breathing is hard for them. It's easy for us to breathe, so we can't imagine, but imagine somebody who they have difficulty breathing and they can't manage, and then they're panicking, and then the relatives are calling, and it's a constant state of panic. And so you kind of just have to just know that it's your job and it's what you signed up for as a healthcare worker, to provide care to patients. And so you just do your best to do that every day.
The last year is possibly the most difficult year of my career. And it is not because of the physical work, it's the emotional and psychological component of what took place in the last year. I would say the physical work I'm very much used to, and it still does not add up to what I experienced at KPH pre-COVID. However, the emotional component was what was most difficult for myself, and I would say most of our healthcare workers. Most persons will know all my patients are very dear to me. There's so many I could list from last year till now. The first patient that I discharged from National Chest Hospital last year, March. She was the second diagnosed COVID-19. And she was my first discharge, the hospital's first discharge. And she's always dear to me because every day she was alone by herself in that room for 2 weeks straight, right? And when she was leaving, it was the first time she was able to see somebody outside of a suit, outside of a hazmat suit. And she cried. She said she'll never forget Dr. Johnson. She'll never forget how I looked. She'll always remember my voice because that's what she's familiar with. And she stayed with me.
It would be naive of me to not recognize the emotional pull that it would have had on the staff. So we've had to be there because sometimes you see more tempers under the surface, and something that would have been easily ignored. You have to be mediator and recognize that, yes, the frustration sometimes comes out in words that are more harshly said. Persons sometimes more quick to anger, more quick to having disagreements among themselves. We would have had staff members who you just had to take out of the situation for a little while. It could encourage people to take a break, right? We've had the psychologist here for support, whether it be in a group type setting, especially when we've lost persons within our community or patients that would have really been with us for quite a while. So different aspects. You've had persons who would have just come and shed tears. Literally you're speaking to them, and I'm speaking of staff members, and I'm speaking of myself as well.
I do remember a gentleman. He was always afraid to go to sleep because his fear, once he sleeps, that was it for him. So he would cry the whole night. Nurse, I don't want to sleep. Nurse, come stay with me. I can't do it anymore. So in situations like those, you want to stay there with them and be in the room to tell them, hey, I'm here. You can go to sleep. Everything will be fine. You'll be up in the morning. Even though sometime in the back of your head, you're also thinking, will this person actually make it if they go to sleep, right? So we have the prognosis in our mind, but yes, so we have to comfort them and reassure them that everything will be okay. So this patient, he cried the whole night. Sometimes, even though we have a limited amount of time to spend with the patients in there, we try to extend that so as to provide more emotional support, more psychological support. If it's even to hold their hand for 5-10 minutes, sing them a song. Some nurses would pray with the patients. It helps. It was a great deal. So that patient, one night, he finally decided, okay, he's going to have a nap, so to speak. So he was very quiet. We're like, okay, he's having a good rest. And then in the morning, we're like, all right, that's good. He finally relaxed. And then after checking, he actually went in his sleep. So people say don't get emotionally attached when it comes to our job, but it's very hard not to.
There's a level of pride that comes from working with the staff here, whether it be sometimes, you might hear, as I said, it's naive to assume that we don't have the grumblings, right, and the frustration, but you just support. You come, and a porter at night is sometimes playing music just to get through the duties. You support your staff, you speak to the security officers, and you begin to know people either by name, by face, and you inquire of them too, and you jump in. I can't say we have had any consultant here. You'll speak to other officers who have sat back and not been part of the process.
Last year has been really very stressful. Stressful because of the pandemic. Stressful because work is basically every day. You come to work with the fear, wondering, am I going to get COVID? Or I think one of the greatest fears for most of us as frontline workers, are the patients going to be honest enough to state that this is what is happening, and then will we be able to deal with it thereafter? So it has been very stressful, very stressful.
Everybody goes through certain phases. I remember distinctly when we heard that COVID was here, and we were to make preparations for the hospital, that's actually known, because I was wondering what it is that we're going to encounter. We're walking through just saying, this is how we're going to move the patients from point A to point B. It's like how it is we're going to manage this. But we've had to manage, and because I'm a senior resident, I've also had to model that managing for my junior staff. So whereas, in yourself, you'd be looking at the situation and saying, well, this is rough, but you have others looking up to you for guidance and so on. So that helps you to marshal your thoughts, to keep yourself together, and to show them, what things can be done despite the challenges that are there.
We have a very good team, very highly motivated. I mean, we do have our challenges, and sometimes we can get a little bit derailed, but overall, everybody, most people are really just major team players, and I think that's what has helped us to manage all the various challenges that have come our way. So, team players and resilient. So in terms of describing the quality of the team, professional, highly motivated, and very resilient team we have here at Spanish Town.
Over this pandemic, we have seen how resilient the staff members are. I must say kudos to every category of staff members at Spanish Town Hospital. They have worked wonders. They have charged into the fight with persons who want to run away. We in St. Catherine have suffered from 2 consecutive lockdowns, and the staff members have never once said, no, they're not coming. They have provided of themselves far beyond what we would have expected, without a murmur, as we would say in old folks' terms, without a murmur or complaint. They have, I tip my hat off to them, from the doctors to the nurses to the janitors, to the porters to the administrative team who provide the services on a day in and a day out basis. The team have been really resilient. They have not given up the fight, and they have continued within the fight. And yes, we know our resources are limited, but none of those things have hindered them from actually moving forward. And I must give thanks also to the Regional Health Authority and also to the Ministry of Health, because they have also come on board to support us during the time that we had many lockdowns, during the time that we had the challenges, and also with activities that will help us to also boost staff morale during that challenging time.